Hello and welcome back to the Reactivist Podcast. I'm Marlena Shivo. Joining me today is renowned criminal defense attorney Arthur Aidala. Arthur has represented many high-profile clients: Lawrence Taylor, Alan Dershowitz, Anthony Weiner, Bill de Blasio, Rudy Giuliani, Harvey Weinstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. The list goes on and on. I don't know if there's anybody left in New York for him to represent. Arthur, so good to have you here. You are the perfect guest to have to talk about the latest in the Trump trial. I'm actually surprised, Arthur, that you're not Trump's lawyer.
Well, if you want to know the truth, and I don't really throw this around a lot, on 3 separate occasions that I can remember, I've turned him down. Not him, but his team have called me, etc. I just got a lot going on. Harvey Weinstein and I'm Alan Dershowitz, Ghislaine Maxwell. There's only so much. There's only so much bandwidth. And we represent Rudy Giuliani down in Florida, and I wanted to make sure that there was going to be no conflict of interest if we represent Trump in one place and Rudy in another.
Right. Well, now that I was going to talk to you about Harvey Weinstein ever so briefly, but since you brought him up, we'll get him out of the way. Okay.
Whatever you need.
So obviously his case was overturned, and he is set to have a retrial. And we know the facts of the case, so we don't need to get into it. But I'm just curious on a personal level, given the people that you represent, do you ever get hate? Do people recognize you in New York and throw hate your way, knowing that you represent someone like Harvey Weinstein? Because the court of public opinion is way stronger than the actual facts of any case.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up. I've actually, I believe, gotten more hate from I've been going on CNN often, the nights of the court trial, of Mr. Trump's court trial. And I've kind of been wearing the hat of criminal defense attorney and defending President Trump, at least in this court case, on television. And I've definitely gotten more hate mail, hate crime, whatever, hate mail or hate text or whatever from defending Trump on television, not even in real life, than I have from Harvey. But I did get a really good email the other day about Harvey. It was probably 4 sentences, maybe 5, and I think they used the F word like 22 times in 5 sentences. But
so the answer is yes.
I must say, and that's what I just said actually is true, that email did come through like that. But after we got the decision on the Weinstein case, within the next 24 to 48 hours, I don't know if I'm exaggerating when I say over 500 messages, 400 and change. And like 3 of them were negative. The rest of them were, even from strangers, were like, look, I may not like him and he may be a bad guy and he may be totally guilty of what he was charged with, but it was obvious he did not get a fair trial. And it was a great thing that you fixed that. And that was from lay people. Lawyers were like, you helped all of us because this was going to change the rules of engagement for all of us. So it helped a lot.
It's true, though. It's true. And then that could, that brings us to Trump, right? Because there are so many people that hate Trump, to the point where obviously you're getting people hating you for defending him on a talk show. But it makes you wonder if he can even get a fair trial. And I know that's been discussed ad nauseum. But so let's just get into the facts of today and Michael Cohen and his testimony. I want to start off by talking about the fact that Michael Cohen cannot see Trump. And then when they asked what color tie Trump was wearing, Michael Cohen had to stand up and look and then answer. Is that strategic?
Well, it's actually the way the courthouse is designed, and has been designed that way for years. And the way the judge's bench is and where the witness's seat is compared to where the defendant sits, you don't necessarily have to stand up. If you lean all the way forward and then look over, you can see the defendant. But it was the same true. I was in the courtroom when Stormy Daniels testified last week. And it's the same thing. Like, unless she leaned all the way over, and actually from her position, you have to look to her right. Yeah, you can't see Trump. In other words, the judge's bench is right here, and the jury's to their left. They're looking out at the audience. The jury's to their left. The judge is up here to the right. And his bench extends out, covering their field of vision to where the defendant's sitting in front of them. So I think it really helps the witness a lot in any case, because you don't have the person who basically you're helping put in jail or trying to put in jail, staring you down. Any criminal defendant, but especially Trump, like takes it to a whole other level. He's just like staring you down as if you're testifying.
Well, in this case, I don't know if he's always staring them down, because he's been known to close his eyes. And they said that he closed his eyes when Michael Cohen started talking today. So I don't know if that is him concentrating.
Well, it's also, it goes both ways. Trump can't see them either. So, I wonder if it would be different if he was able to see them. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he wouldn't be closing his eyes if he was able to see them. I'm going to say that if he was able to see them, he'd be staring them down.
He probably would be. Or I thought about maybe if he hears what they're saying, maybe if his eyes are closed, he can't actually show what his reaction is to what they're saying.
Or if you look at Stormy, and be like, remember the good times we had? Remember those good times? And Michael Cohen, remember all the money we made together with your taxi cab business and all that? I mean, I don't know. You don't know. I mean, these were both. Stormy obviously had a quite intimate association with the president. And Cohen, I mean, look, Marlena, I went up to visit Michael Cohen. It's probably a dozen years ago with a mutual friend who was like, I'll take it. We had lunch. My friend and I had lunch. He goes, come on, I want to introduce you to my friend Michael Cohen. He works for Trump. And this was, again, it was probably 12 years ago when Trump was just, Trump the businessman, Trump the guy. I don't even know if The Apprentice was on TV at the time. But we went up there and Trump was not there, but Michael Cohen was there. And he had, not a tiny office, but not a big office. He had like a normal size, I guess, office, but it was right next to Trump's office. I mean, it was, you could shoot a spitball into Trump's office.
Well, things have changed tremendously for the two of them, obviously.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now it came out today that, Michael Cohen surreptitiously recorded Trump.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Not with what's that?
I'm not a fan of that.
No, I thought it doesn't make him look good, honestly, but he recorded him not with the Stormy Daniels case, but the payment for the Playboy model Karen McDougal and the story that was going to come out in the National Enquirer about that. And I know it's meant to make Trump look guilty, although it doesn't sound like Trump said much other than 150, meaning 150,000 for the payment. But do you think that makes Michael Cohen look bad?
Yeah, I mean,
or do you think it's bad for both of them?
Think about it. If, I was representing you in anything, I mean, I don't care if it's a speeding ticket. Not that I do a lot of speeding tickets, but, and it comes to pass that you're like your lawyer who you trust, who you believe in, who you have a privilege with, is recording you without you knowing it. I mean, that's just not the way I practice law. And I wouldn't even dream about doing it. I mean, it's one thing if he said, I think it's still wrong, but if he said, look, I didn't trust Donald Trump and I thought he was going to turn on me or do something. So I recorded it and I kept this thing just for myself. I never allowed anyone to listen to it. And I would never allow anyone to listen to it unless he turned on me and he accused me of something.
Right.
Okay, that's one thing. But to be like, yeah, I was recording it and I was going to go now play it to our adversary. Well, I guess he wasn't his adversary, to say, like, look, if you lay out the money, we'll pay you back. But that's just not the way you're supposed to be a lawyer.
I know. And and even in today, he said it was to benefit Trump so that this guy would stay at bay and be loyal to Trump.
But I mean, that's a straight up violation of the attorney-client privilege.
Absolutely. So you answered my question. It still makes him look bad. It
Yes.
makes him look worse than Trump, really.
Correct.
Okay. So now my other question regarding Stormy Daniels, I mean, I don't feel like, and you tell me if you think Michael Cohen is a strong witness, because he does have a bad reputation. And I guess that isn't supposed to matter in the eyes of the jury, but it could play out on the stand, and I feel like it is playing out on the stand a little bit, just given what we're told. Not just the recording, but he was so sloppy with how his dealings with Stormy Daniels. I mean, the fact that his name was registered on the LLC that he paid her through, right? Like that alone is what blew this up.
I think whenever this case winds up and there's closing arguments, the defense goes first. So the prosecution has an advantage because they can rebut whatever the defense says. But look at it this way. There are certain things the prosecution can't get around. And no matter, who goes first and who goes second. I would just look at this jury and say, folks, if there was something that really mattered to you, like your children's educational fund or your mortgage, something that could alter the trajectory of your life, would you hesitate to trust Michael Cohen? Would you take his word for it? Would you allow him to make decisions for you? And if you would hesitate, you know what that's called? A reasonable doubt.
Right.
And he's the only person here who says that, oh yeah, Trump didn't care about Melania at all. It was just about the election. Therefore, it was the bookkeeping change or mistake or whatever you want to call it, intentional entry that was inaccurate was there only for the election. Because what the defense should be trying to say is that he didn't want his wife to know, he didn't want his kids to know that, sleeping with a porn star in maybe certain circles of the world is a badge of honor, but not under your roof.
Right.
But Michael Cohen's job today is to make it clear that for Trump, it wasn't about his family at all. Like Trump didn't care about his family. He didn't care if they found out. He just cared about the election. And then Michael Cohen also has to take another step, and he's got to be able to say, you know what, folks? Donald Trump told me, whatever you do when you put it in the ledger book, don't put anything down about her. Just put the whole thing down as your legal fee. I mean, that's the only evidence that's out there that Trump knew that the bookkeeping was illegal, and the reason why the bookkeeping was illegal was to commit another crime. And those are the elements that the prosecutors got to prove.
But how is the bookkeeping illegal if I mean, they're saying he falsified documents, but how do you prove that he falsified documents if it is listed as a legal consulting situation?
Michael Cohen laid out the money for him. I mean, it's really a nuance. Michael Cohen laid out the money for Trump, laid out the $130,000, and then was going to be getting paid back from Trump. So technically, it should be listed as compensation for expenses or under expenses, but it's just listed as a lawyer's fee. I mean, it's really splitting hairs. And even people, Marlena, even people who hate Trump, even people who think, he should never, ever have been the president or should he be the president again, who live in the world that I live in, this world of criminal law and the state system and the 5 boroughs, they all say that, this case, it should have never been brought. And now you're going to bring the first case against a former president in the United States, who may be the next president in the United States, on shaky evidence to prove a crime that's never really been proven before. Not good.
So Michael Cohen, I don't know. I think he's a bust. I don't know what else he could possibly say. But is this?
Well, it's really going to depend, Marlene. It's really going to depend on how he handles cross-examination, because they're going to come after him hard in cross-examination, and that's where he'll show his true colors.
Okay, but is this their strongest witness?
It's not their strongest witness, but it's definitely their most important witness.
Well, what's the difference?
Because their strongest witness is someone who comes on who isn't a convicted felon like he is, doesn't have charges for perjury like he does, hasn't done jail time like he does, wasn't pictured a couple of days ago wearing a T-shirt of Donald Trump behind bars that shows how much he hates Trump. That's far from the best witness. The best witness is someone who has no skin in the game, doesn't have any strong feelings about Donald Trump, but possesses evidence that hurts Donald Trump.
But it is like a he said, she said.
Correct.
All the other witnesses are saying their position and what they were told by Donald Trump, but they're all conversations that they had with.
But it's not only that. Nobody goes as far as saying, Oh, and he told us just list these. You got to focus on what the crime is. The crime is not him writing out the checks. The crime is not him paying off Stormy Daniels. That's not the crime. The crime is how it gets recorded back here in New York because he's writing some of these checks out when he's president of the United States. The crime is how it is put in the books, in the ledger books here in New York and the Trump Corporation, right up the block from where I am right now, and where it's not listed properly. That's the crime. And so far, there's been no evidence by any of the witnesses that Donald Trump told them how to list those expenses.
What do you think? Mistrial?
Yes. I don't think there's 12 jurors that are going to be able to decide. I mean, I would be pretty surprised if it's a full acquittal. I'd be pretty shocked, actually, if 12 people agree that he's not guilty. I'll be unpleasantly surprised if 12 people agree that he is guilty. I won't be surprised at all if it's like 9-3, 8-4, one way or the other, guilty or not guilty.
So this is just a waste of time. Okay. And I am not someone who is in love with Donald Trump. That is for sure. But
nor am I. Nor am I, for the record. But I am enamored with our criminal justice system, and I don't want it to be used or abused.
I think on both sides of the aisle, people would agree that this is a weaponization of the justice system.
Well, yes, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more, and I hate it.
Where's your fire today, Arthur? You're usually so animated. Are you exhausted or what?
Well, you and I are kind of agreeing. Like, in other words, you have to understand something. The people who I've been going up against in TV and radio are all people saying that, Trump should be doing 25 to life on this case. So, sadly, you're a little like level-headed or very level-headed and looking at this the right way. So I really don't need to be like yelling at you.
I guess we'll have to argue another time.
Okay, well, we can bring up, we can find some topics that we don't agree on.